The following program is a public access production. Comcast is required to provide time on this channel and make it available pursuant to franchise agreements with the communities we serve. Comcast is not affiliated with the following program or the producers of public access programming and is not responsible for the content. The following program does not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Hello, and welcome to Cahnmann's Current Events Roundtable. And today we have a very famous guest, or should I say infamous?
Infamous? Yeah, there you go.
Famous or infamous is the word. And that is Scott Lee Cohen, who was a former nominee on the Democratic ticket for Lieutenant Governor. Welcome, Scott,
Very nice to be
Cahnmann's
here.
Current Event Roundtable. And before we start, I just want to read just a very short thing from Chicago Magazine written by David Bernstein, and it was very funny, so I have to read it. Scott Lee Cohen is the Susan Boyle of Illinois politics, a frumpy diamond in the rough who came out of nowhere and competed almost overnight into stardom, except in Cohen's case, his dream turned into a nightmare after he upset victory in February's Democratic primary for lieutenant governor. And it was so funny that he compared you to Susan Boyle. And I think the show that I'm going to be doing today is not to harp on all these, I have no intention of stepping down, I will resign, the ex-girlfriend and all this other junk, which I call because, they didn't really know the man.
They didn't.
And today at lunch, I got to know Scott Lee Cohen, and as my doctor, and I quote my doctor when he heard Dr. Goldberg, when he heard that you were going to be on the show, he said, "Why did he drop out?" And he says, "I would have voted for him because he wasn't a politician; he was a businessman, and maybe." That is the type of person that should be running our country and I should say our state. Not just our country, but our state. Instead of politicians, businessmen, people that get to know the people.
Well, that's what I ran on. That's one of the biggest reasons why I won. I'm not a career politician. I was a successful small businessman. And I agree with what he said and what most of the people in Illinois believe, that the state needs to be run by somebody with some business sense, not a career politician. It's these career politicians that have been running the state, and where are we today? We're $13 billion in the hole. We have the highest rate of unemployment than we've ever had. And, I was somebody who had some good ideas to fix these issues, and you see where I'm at today.
Well, Scott, maybe I don't understand. You went from a non-politician or a person that's never been in politics straight up to lieutenant governor. Instead of, most of the time people go from maybe city council member and they kind of go, they kind of climb up the ladder. And you went directly way up to the top. How did you think? And who helped you get up to the top beside you? I mean, how did this all start? How did you think lieutenant governor rather than, say, city councilman, or in some suburbs they're called aldermen? So,
well, number one, I don't like city politics. I wanted to be at a state level where I can affect the whole state, where I can help the people within the whole state. I wanted to find a position where I could best use my experience in business to help the people. So So the way I got my start and the reason why I went after the lieutenant governor's office, you know, it goes hand in hand. When Rod Blagojevich was implicated in selling the U.S. Senate seat, I formed the organization Rod Must Resign. Just like the people in Illinois, we want honest representation. And you know, he was a bad guy. He had some bad ideas, and he did some bad things. So, a grassroots organization. I started it by myself, and in a very short amount of time, we had hundreds of people, and we were demonstrating at the State of Illinois building. So what I saw that I had was some leadership. I wanted to take the leadership ability and my business sense and put it someplace where it really could have been used well.
There was one thing you mentioned, that Rod Blagojevich was sort of a bad person, and yet there were some things that, you know, came out in your life. And one of the things that, you know, I think that needed to be explained, we got these bits and pieces in the newspaper, and these, you know, it was almost like one of these magazines that you see at the supermarket.
Tabloids.
Tabloids, National Enquirer type of things. And little bits and pieces, like, you know, again, I have to admit, I will, you know, not that I will resign, but the, you know, ex-girlfriend, Cohen is not fit for office, blah, 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 you know, these headlines. And yet, we didn't hear from you, and I think this is what we needed to hear about, you know, what, you know, to explain yourself as far as what, you know, these type of things that you originally, I think you spoke to Mark Brown
Correct.
in the paper about this, and they thought you were just, you know, sort of like, oh, he's not going to win anything. He's just, you know, somebody that just put himself on the ballot. And here you won by, how many votes was that? I got that down somewhere.
30,000 votes, 3%.
And you won by 211,000
3 points,
votes. Yes. And they didn't take you serious. And if you had to do it again, I guess what I'm trying to say is we got to hear from Scott Lee Cohen.
We talked about this at lunch.
Yes.
If I had to do it over again, there's nothing I would do differently other than the way I handled the media when I had won. You know, I had a constitutional right to expunge my record on that battery charge. I chose not to do that because expunging it is hiding, it's lying. I wanted the people to know I was a real person, that I had done things in my life that I'm not proud of, but, you know, how do I explain it? I'm not proud of what I've done, but it made me who I am today. And to expunge it would have been dishonest.
So you needed to come out, and if you had to do it again, just come out and say, if this is, you know, maybe that's exactly what President Clinton, you know, if he would have said, look, you know.
But I tried, you know, when I talked to Mark Brown and told him all these issues that had happened in my past, and he really didn't, he reported on them, but he didn't elaborate on them. I tried contacting other newspapers, other media outlets. Nobody wanted to listen to me.
Okay. But also, Scott, doesn't everybody have something in their closet? I know that, for instance,
please.
I mean, everybody has something in their closet, and I think I had something, even Jan Schakowsky, who is U.S. Congresswoman from Illinois, her husband, Robert Creamer, I believe, he was...
An ex-felon?
Yeah, right. He was on he was indicted on bank fraud, was in prison, and here she is. She's a congresswoman, and that didn't stop, you know, just because her husband, you know, had a problem. That didn't stop her. I mean, everybody